Welcome back, everybody. In today's video, we're going to continue with the high elo games because this is pretty much what most of you have requested. And we are currently at about 2150, which I know may sound really intimidating considering the fact that most of the viewers are, let's say, in a rating range between 1000 to 1500. But the main difference between your games, or the majority of you, and the games that you're about to see is that these guys are simply not making unforced errors. They're not doing any kind of crazy Houdini magic that it's impossible to understand. They simply do not blunder, allowing us to showcase some very important fundamental concepts in their purest form, which I think you should keep in mind as a reference point. And yeah, the only thing that you'll have to do while playing your games is try to apply these concepts while constantly looking for blunders. So punish your weaker opponents. So without any further introduction, I've prepared the 3 model Jobava games. Let's dive right into the action. All right, everybody, we are back with another white game facing 2150 rated opponent from Serbia. So we're gonna try to Jobava his ass by playing knight c3. Idea to go e4 and he goes e6. Alright, already a bit of an interesting spot since he's kind of inviting us to grab the center. But he's just sort of playing dumb. Like he says, okay, take the center. Just so that he can get us into a very dangerous jungle after the move d5. Entering the French defense. Which is definitely an option if you understand the French defense, but assuming you probably don't know what that means, we're not gonna complicate it. We're just gonna be going bishop f4, okay? And yeah, he plays d6. He plays d6, so I went bishop to f4 with the idea that having he played d5, we can go e3 and we are back into the normal Jobava London lines. But he plays d6, meaning that we can no longer play the Jobava. Why? Well, in order to have the Jobava London, you need his pawn to be on d5. If he doesn't put a pawn in the center, then we are supposed to take the center ourselves. So I'm going to play the move e4, already having a pretty nice space advantage, and I recommend a very simple attacking scheme from this point. So you don't even need to remember theory, you just need to know how to develop the pieces. And I recommend the so-called English attack idea. Basically play for, let's say, f3, queen d2, long castle. By the way, the bishop, if you haven't developed it yet on f4, it's actually slightly better placed on e3. So that, it doesn't get hit with the tempo, but it's not that big of a detail here, let's say. Since we already committed, it's okay. And yeah, after you castle long, you basically say, okay, we're not going to develop these pieces, but we're going to try to push these pawns. And it's actually a pretty annoying thing to deal with as black. So, yeah. You can start queen d2 or f3. Let's say f3. I normally start with f3 when I have bishop on a3 so that there is no more knight jump. Queen goes to d2 castle, and remember, I know it's kind of very tempting to try to develop the kingside pieces, but you don't really have such good squares. Like for instance, it could be tempting, yeah, to play bishop on one of these squares, but already that would invite black to start pushing his pawns and potentially get a head start in this queenside attack that he's normally trying to get. So, okay, we did first part of the plan. We castle long, now looking to push the pawns. Also, I could try to be sneaky and play a useful move in general, like king b1, giving him time to castle. Because I have a feeling if I just go h4 like that, he's gonna be kind of terrified to castle. But it's not really how you should think about it. So I'm gonna go h4 anyways. If he doesn't castle, he doesn't castle. We'll have to play that position. I could have also started g4. To be honest, it doesn't really matter that much. If he goes h5, that just weakens g5 square, quite often inviting the knight over there. And yeah, I was thinking he may be going for something like this to try to win the pawn. Wow. Predraje. Naughty boy. He wants to win a free pawn. Yeah. Maybe I should have started with g4. No, jokes aside, I think we should be better. It's just that it's not that simple to continue. So bishop g5 would be a way to defend against both frats, like he's threatening positional threat, winning bishop pair and also the pawn. So bishop g5, but after knight g3, I'll have to play rook h3. Takes on f1, I have to take with the rook. Yeah, I mean, we can play that position. So I'm just gonna do it here. The bishop was anyways slightly misplaced on f4, as I said. Yeah, another reason why it's better on e3, so that knight h5 doesn't come with the tempo. And yeah, now, okay, important simple decision. To take with a queen or with a pawn. Which one do you think it's better? Because, okay, how can you take this decision? You need to take into consideration that we have the extra space. We have pawns in the center. Yeah, this is the center of the board. We have 2 pawns. Opponent has 0. So with a space advantage, you try to keep as many pieces on the board as possible, right? So taking with the queen would be just giving him another trade and a bit easier defense in general. So taking with the pawn, just simple decision keeping. And after knight g3, I have a very simple move. Rook is under attack. I want to move the rook. Where do I move the rook? Somewhere with a tempo. Yeah, I have 3 moves. Only one of them is with a tempo. So move has to be rook h3. Then just recapturing. And okay, after all these jazz, there is quite an important factor in the position which may actually give us a completely winning position strategically just by playing simple chess. Can you try to guess what that is? Try to look on the board and identify a potential weakness. So pause the video and let's say I would give you 2 moves. Black does nothing. Yeah, imagine black is frozen in time. What would you play? And you cannot tell me you would play rook h7, rook h8. Okay, that's not how it works. So the point is, okay, you want to look on the open file. And we see a pawn. And that pawn is actually a backward pawn. Because my opponent cannot advance it. Like we're going to go knight e2, rook h1. And the pawn cannot be protected by any other pawns. And if it pushes, it's going to get lost. So for this reason, it's a massive target. It's a very important factor in the position to the point where my opponent has to play this awkward knight f8 move, disrupting connection between the rooks. Now, my opponent is pretty much frozen, right? Like these pieces are targeted. And okay, we need to create a second weakness in order to win. We got him packed, but in order to give final blow, we need to switch between the sides. So one of the main advantages while having extra space is that you can switch sides much faster. So I'm thinking about potentially a rook that could lift. So g4, or maybe just f4 actually, I could play. It's a nice move in a way that the rook could swing, and I could also look for a4. Like imagine a4, a5, some knight b5, the rook could swing over. Okay, I'm just gonna start a4. I'm not gonna rush. I'm gonna play it simple. Remember that he's frozen. He has this big problem that keeps all his pieces tied down, the backward pawn. And in the meantime, I'm just looking to open second front for the attack. Perhaps I could even just go b3, king b2 with the idea to swing the other rook. Yeah, perhaps that's gonna be a bit easier. He plays a6 with the idea that on a5 he tries to sidestep, which is kind of clever. I'm just gonna play simple moves though. I'm not gonna rush with this. Also, the knight from e2 is a piece that could be improved. Like it's developed, but it's not really doing much as for now, at least. So I would perhaps, yeah, where would I want to have that knight placed? I would want it in the attack, but I'm struggling to kind of come up with an ideal position for it. And okay, g6. Yeah, opponent is helping. g6. Try to pause the video and think about what is the drawback of the g6 move. The problem is now he has permanently weakened f6 square. And I would love to get this knight to g4 so that it can plant itself on f6 and attack the pawn. Okay. How can we do that? Maybe king b2, knight c1, knight d3, knight f2, knight g4, knight f6, win h7 pawn, win the game. Easy. So I could have tried to do it with the other knight, but the knight is already useful in protecting. So yeah. He could try to do some nonsense in the meantime, but his position is already kind of passive, so he shouldn't be able to do much to stop this plan. Okay, can I just push? c5, it's a little bit annoying. Perhaps now that he is committing, I should reconsider my options. For instance, I could consider a move like rook d3. I could also do dc, but then he takes with this. I have rook d3. Kind of force a trade. I win the d file. Yeah, I feel like rook d3 should be better. Just creating pressure. And now I could switch from the backward h7 pawn to potentially backward d6 pawn. So I could take and then play rook d1. And the problem for my opponent is that the d6 pawn is a little bit more advanced than the h7 pawn. And usually, as a rule of thumb, the pawns that are a bit more advanced are going to be a bit more vulnerable. So in this case, yeah, he seems to be struggling to defend. So he wants to take back with the knight. So for that reason, I'm going to bring the rook. As in knight c5, I want to have rook d6 as an option. I'm not entirely sure that I'm playing this properly. I would need a bit more time to figure out the details, but I'm trying to just play natural moves. Could also do queen e3 next. Still, I have one bit of a problem that the knight on c1, I'd like to improve it. Yeah, like imagine if I could teleport this knight to c4 square or to g4 even, would be much better, but we're taking it step by step. It's important that, okay, my opponent is sort of lacking any active really moves. So he tries to maneuver, but isn't he just losing? That's just losing on the file. Yeah, he didn't realize the power of the triple stack. So I told you he will have issues with the d6 pawn, the freshly created backward pawn. He cannot take with the d pawn because he's losing the rook, so he should try to minimize the damage and take with the b pawn, but yeah. We're going to be able to collect on d6 multiple times, and I'm going to have a technically winning position, but with only a minute left on the clock, so yeah. I'm gonna try my best to convert it, but it's still not entirely clear how. Although we will have 3 against 2 majority on the queen side in the upcoming endgame, we should realistically have all the reasons in the world to win this. But yeah, it takes a bit of time. However, it looks like the more I think about the position, after we trade everything on d6, I could play maybe for f5 break. And after he takes twice, I have rook f6. Potentially, I could open up the position, and that may lead to a faster win, but Okay, knight c6, stupid move, of course. I'm gonna be up 2 pawns, I mean. That's why it's stupid. I just have to make moves. I shouldn't spend time thinking about this. No idea why he didn't take the pawn, but yeah. I guess he's just trying to make it messy. But you shouldn't back rank yourself if you try to keep it messy. Normally, try to not help your opponent in delivering checkmate. That would be a pretty useful role if you want to stay in the game. These are the kind of very instructive tips of why you keep watching the channel. Nobody provides you with such educational masterpieces. These are the kind of quotes that you can put on your fridge. Do not help your opponent deliver checkmate if you're trying to win. Turns out Mr. Praje may need to have that as a reminder. Okay, what is he gonna do? H5, allowing en passant. Fuck. En passant is forced whenever you can do it. So I don't want to take because I'm losing the file. Then I have to move queen I don't like. So I'm going en passant. I had to like justify my way into the en passant. You know, like you want to buy something expensive and you're not sure. You just keep watching 100 reviews to the point where, okay, after the amount of reviews I watched on YouTube, I'm losing money if I don't buy the thing. So that's kind of what's been happening with the last decision. Damn, this guy is really... He's trying to use this strategy to confuse me to the point where I stop making moves. Honestly, that's pretty solid. Opponent is applying the Serbian school of chess. Okay, rook d1. I'm almost queening. I don't know about him, but I'm almost queening. My knights are on shitty spots, which kind of sums up this game. But I'm almost queening, so I guess it could have been worse. Okay, queen c3. I just want to do that so I can promote. I also stop any checks on the diagonal. Will he play e5? e5 would be a good move to stop that, but maybe I simply go knight d3. Trying to activate these shitty knights once and for all. Bro, how do I have knights on the first rank? That never happens. Okay, e4, knight e5 I want to play maybe. Trade everything. Life is good. And ef I have queen g7 I'd imagine. And kind of promote. Oh, he goes there. Okay, I take and I take with check. He missed it. Oh no, he takes there. I should be having mate, but I don't see it. Because I'm super rusty. Pretty sure like knight d7 should be mate. Damn it, I'm just gonna play knight e3 because I cannot calculate two moves. Okay, doing this. Expecting maybe queen e6 or something. Okay, thanks for activating my queen for free. That's the typical Serbian hospitality. And there you go to the next level. Activating the queen and also offering you a drink. Please checkmate me on e8 in one move. Okay, thank you. Opponent resigned. Also, it was mate on c7, so... He offered me not a drink, but a cocktail. Okay. I mean, to be honest, it was kind of a nice way how he got positionally busted immediately. Like, this position was very bad. Just because of the backward pawn. And then, yeah, I mean, I didn't really have to do much. Like, considering perhaps I could have played the d5 break. Yeah, I was considering it. I just wanted to play it simple until, yeah, I had this, you know, slow plan in mind. I mean, if it does nothing and I just bring the knight to f6, yeah, just to kind of show you what I had in mind, yeah. I play knight f2. Yeah, he does nothing critical. I get my knight into f6 and then I simply collect the pawn and then I win the game. So this was my plan, but okay, after he does c5, you have to kind of update your view on the position. So this is something, okay, that it's perhaps one of the most difficult things to do in chess. Even I struggle with it quite a bit. When opponent makes a pawn move, you should try to see it as a completely new position. So after c5 is being played, okay, not only that, I cannot do the whole knight transfer because I lose the pawn, but also there is weakness on d6. So then rook d3 and then this made sense. Yeah, I was kind of afraid of c4, but I realized, okay, at least knight is coming to b3. But obviously, you should have tried that to at least make it messy. But no, he just lost on the d file. And notice how if he plays cd4, I take with the rook, and these are the two backward pawns in the position, but the pawn on d6 is more advanced, a bit more difficult to protect. So I would have simply won the game thanks to one simple positional strategic concept, whatever you want to call it, the fact that my opponent has a backward pawn. This is super underrated because if your opponent has a backward pawn, the only thing that you need to do is get a triple stack on it, and having this positional advantage, it's almost as good as having an extra pawn, because you saw how easily the pawn will collapse. So yeah, kind of pop in a game review, and yeah, got 88. I mean, not the most precise game of all time, but definitely pretty simple and yeah, effortless win against yeah, a pretty annoying, what opening was this? Pirk. It wasn't really a Pirk because he didn't fianchetto. Pretty weird hippo version, let's say. So yeah. With that being said, I think we can move on to the following game. Now, in this game, we have been watching how to play if black simply refuses to place any of his pawns in the center, meaning that we're not gonna be allowed to play the normal Jobava ideas. You know, we just have to take over the center with the pawns and then play the English attack scheme. But in the following games, we're gonna get into the typical territory where black plays the pawn to d5 move, enabling the Jobava. Welcome back, everybody. As it seems, we have gotten ourselves a 2150 rated opponent who seems to be 16 years of age. Okay, let's see. I'm saying that based on the nickname. 16 years of age and 2100. Probably not the next Magnus Carlsen, but also we should not underestimate the opponent. So, okay. We get starting position of the Jobava London. We see d5 on the board, enabling the Jobava, and he plays the move c6. The Slav, meaning we have to forget about the knight b5 ideas, and the move order is super important. So you want to remember to not rush with a knight. That's common move order mistake. You want to start by generally playing e3 and bishop d3 first, and only then you do the knight. Because you want to give yourself the option of meeting moves like bishop f5, aka black is trying to play with the bishop outside the pawn chain. You want to be ready to launch the pawn storm, which, yeah, would have not been a thing, having you mindlessly play knight f3 thinking that we should just develop pieces because we're in the opening. No, he could have played like bishop f5 and you no longer have that option. Now, he went bishop f5, having he played e6, and he set up with bishop inside the pawn chain. You wanna develop as follows: bishop d3, knight f3, castle, e4. So in bishop inside the pawn chain, we always castle short. If bishop outside the pawn chain in the pawn storm, we will generally castle long. So, okay, let's see what my opponent is gonna play. And okay, he goes h5. Wow. That's a fairly interesting line that quite a bunch of you have, I remember, have asked in the comment section, which was kind of being a bitch and ignoring it because it's very rare. Actually, I think this happens around something like 1% of the games, below 2000, something along those lines, but it's definitely an interesting variation. And okay, what you need to remember is that since g4 is no longer a thing, we will just do the normal pawn turn development. So bishop d3, take with the queen, knight e2, long castle. And instead of playing with g4, the pawn break will happen with e4. So as long as you know that, it's just a little adjustment that you need to make. No more g4. We'll focus on e4 break, and white is doing fairly well. He plays the move e6, which is a bit weird. I could start by taking and then playing queen d3, but I'm just gonna do knight e2 first, still giving him opportunity to take. And yeah, bishop d6, I'm pretty sure it's a common blunder in this position. So yeah, if he plays bishop d6, please feel free to pause the video and figure out why that is a common blunder. And wait, is that the common blunder? Wait a second, I got confused for a minute. Yeah, so bishop d6, I was thinking that there should be this fork motif. And I think it should start with bishop takes. And maybe he's still in time to go bishop d3 intermezzo. The whole idea being that if he takes with the queen, I've seen many people lose like that immediately. You can go e4, whether black takes or not, and then bishop goes back, you will have e5 idea. Working these two pieces, winning immediately. But he took, so he's not going to be vulnerable to that. I'm going to take with the queen because I want to castle long. And yeah, bishop d6 is played. I think I'm just going to do castle. My memory tells me that, okay, e4 is slightly even more precise than castling, but I'm just going to keep it simple for the sake of the video. Just do the castling, and then I'm ready to play e4 on the next move. So, okay, you can pretty much figure out this plan also by elimination. We no longer have g4, and trying to really do something like h3 and then push it, it can backfire if black really wants to be annoying, because after h4, g4 would allow the en passant, and we no longer get the typical kingside play. But okay, he has played knight a6, which is a bit of an annoying move, but it's done due to, yet again, out of elimination. Normally, you'd prefer to play knight d7 closer to the middle, but the bishop would have been hanging. So he could have either played queen c7, preparing that move, or queen e7, protecting the bishop, so that he can move the knight, but he decides to go for the other route, which is possible. Now I basically have a choice between e4, the move that we would have normally played pretty much regardless, or we could also consider whether a3 is needed. Yeah, I feel like I like a3, just not giving him any annoying knight jumps, plus I'm setting up a trap. I'm setting up a trap that, okay, b5 looks like a tempting move. Trying to go for the attack and then playing b4 using the a3 pawn as a hook. A lot of players would blunder with b5 here, I feel like. Nevertheless, if he goes for b5 or not, a3 is a useful move. We're not just playing hope chess. We're playing a3, just making the knight passive. Imagine that if he ends up playing knight c7, then it's quite funny, but in a lot of other Jobava main lines, the whole idea is to lose a tempo with knight b5 and then knight back, just to force his knight to be misplaced on c7. So if he goes for it, you know, voluntarily, I mean, we're gonna take that. The knight from c7 doesn't really have any squares to go to, and he goes queen e7. Okay, queen e7 could be doing two things: preparing castle or preparing bishop a3. I lied, he could do three things. He could also play e5. Please notice that while playing these h5 lines is, okay, on one hand, quite interesting that you stop white's play. But on the other hand, the drawback of this move is that black is going to have a hard time playing short castle, because the pawn will be constantly a target. Like imagine he castles short, already h3 becomes very strong, threatening g4. In the same h4 idea that was effective with a rook on h8 is no longer gonna be that good, because after bishop g5, the pawn on h4 will be unprotected and black is in huge trouble. So his pretty much only card is to castle long in this structure, but I feel like we're gonna get a kind of position where we just have symmetrical but extra space in this structure. So it's only a choice whether do I play e4 right away or do I wanna lure his queen into d6 first. Because if I do that and then I play e4, I'm gonna be threatening to play e5 with a fork. But if I do e4 right away, he may be taking, then castling long, then I can play e5, he goes like knight d7. Guess I could continue with g4 or h4. Yeah, it's not very clear if I want my knight on f4, to be honest, so I'm just gonna start with takes and then with e4 to get the tempo going. Yeah, so this is the move. He cannot play e5 himself because that's gonna be breaking a very important fundamental rule. You should not open the position while your king is still in the middle of the board. So it kind of surprises me that he takes, because we have the opportunity of taking with the pawn and keeping superiority in the center. 2 pawns against 0, pretty much. But I could also consider taking with a knight. You generally take with a knight only to avoid losing a pawn, or yeah, some other concrete reasons, but strategically it's quite nice to have these pawns. And because I'm threatening e5, yeah, in order to not get kind of steamrolled, he may have to play e5 himself. But playing e5, yet again, it's kind of breaking the rule that I've mentioned a second ago. He would be opening up the position without having gotten his king to safety. So he plays queen d7, but notice that there is a big difference with my pawn on f3 and with his pawn on d5. Suddenly, he no longer has control over the e4 square. And I can probably punish that by going e5 and then putting the knight on e4, which later on can be very useful to the outpost. However, because his king is in the middle, I'm also, slightly considering whether we can just blast open the position. But by the looks of it, d5 doesn't seem to have a big follow-up. Like d5 is the kind of move that would be amazing in case black takes everything and the position opens up for our pieces. But you have to not get lost in the flow and assume that your opponent has to take, which is a very common mistake in low elo. You just play a move thinking that he must do something, but your move doesn't have a real threat. So I'd much rather play a move that has a real threat, e5, and then knight e4, securing a long-term outpost. So, yeah, I think we're slowly cooking him, but 2 minutes left on the clock. Important, do not trade. That would mess up all the goods, but knight e4. And the knight is gonna be having a very long life on d6. Damn. That's gonna be a very difficult knight to deal with. Okay, I'm expecting long castle, because short castle already runs into knight g5 kind of stuff, and it could get mated. And after long castle, first instinct is rook on the open file, or I could also check. Problem is, if I check, I don't have a clear follow-up. The other strategic idea would be to play c4, c5, and just make sure we really get a good grip over that square, and we're also playing against that knight. I might actually start with c4 right away, because if he plays knight b6, I have c5 with tempo. Or actually, I think I'm gonna do it this way. So c4, tempo. He has to go one of those squares, I'd imagine, because knight e7, you can try to pause the video and find why that is a mistake. Because I had knight d6 and then knight f7. But yeah, on this, I was thinking maybe rook f1, threatening knight d6 to begin with. And also, he no longer gets interesting f5 like in previous lines, because I can just take. The knight from d5 no longer supports recapturing square. So now I'm threatening to play knight d6 and rook f7, so expecting more or less rook f8. And then, yeah, I think we should be doing quite well after something like c5, knight d6. Yeah, he goes king b8, a possible move. I think I could just plant the knight. Yeah. And perhaps expecting f6 or f5 could also be a move. I'm just threatening rook f7. Maybe it could have been a bit more precise by me to start by going c5, defending my knight. Because now if I en passant, then this guy is going to be hanging. But I'm not really that concerned. I mean, the position is still very good. And I can probably just, yeah, I want to play knight f4. But then g5, so I'm going to do h4 with idea to play knight f4 without letting him get rid of it. And I have simple long-term plan to go like g3, king b1, b4. And at the very least, there will be d5 break. But I can also play for like more long-term squeeze. And he has no moves. Knight c8, so he wants to take. I will support my knight. I'm giving up d5 square, but the difference is that I can easily trade his knight from d5 and he's not going to have an easy time getting rid of mine. So yeah, just knight f4. Might as well see trades and then he plays knight d5, or he could play knight d5 right away and I'm going to capture it. And if he ever takes on d6, I'm going to get a very dangerous passed pawn. It's just that I'm in a very dangerous time situation. So 40 seconds left. It's a dream position that, yeah, you'd love to have 30 minutes on the clock, go for a walk in the playing venue, get a coffee. Unfortunately, right now, I don't even have enough time to go to the bathroom if needed. So, okay, I'm gonna take this way, perhaps try to switch the target. Okay, let's do queen g3, and this is classical situation of position where we can play for two weaknesses. So one weakness on g7 and one weakness on b7. Idea is to play rook b3, and rook g1. And my opponent should not be able to defend everything. Okay, gonna try to do that idea. Also, I could play for b4, king a2, rook b1, and then b5, which is perhaps the more devastating plan. But yeah, I'm just doing my best to not lose on time for now. If he ever plays b6, I think we have to take. Okay, king a2, I'm preparing b4. He doesn't get any counterplay. Like g5, I can always take. Yeah, so he did that, kind of expected. Rook c1, targeting the pawn. So this is the soft square. I might have to switch my rooks to that. So also I'm making room for the queen to join. Rook d3 was perhaps not a required move, but this is a position where you can do many things. I have to be careful to not blunder. He may be willing to sack the exchange. I don't have much to do against it. Probably it's clever for him to sack the exchange, but I should still be better. Okay, let's bring the queen. He cannot take because loses b6. Additionally, there could be queen a4 incoming. If b5, maybe queen a6. Okay, queen a4 and pick up c6. I'll take with the rook just to try to play for mate, even though I don't see the mate as I'm referring to it. But just in general, keeping queens helps the attack. Okay, queen b5. He has queen a5 as a bit of an annoying move. I should have perhaps tried queen c4 instead. Try to play for rook c8. Okay. He will try knight e7, but then I have rook c7, strong move. But then he has queen d5, kind of luckily. No, I can just take on e7. Never mind. King a7 is bad because of rook c7. So let's see, expecting that move, and I want to go rook. If knight d5, I'll have rook c8 with mate. Big frat. Big boy frat, rook c8, and then take and queen b7 mate. He might panic. But yeah, this is the move, so I'm expecting knight back as the only way to defend against it. If rook d6, I just take with the pawn. Come on, opponent. I really need to use the bathroom. You need to make a move. You cannot use that strategy. Let me crap my pants so that you can win. That's not a very nice strategy. Wait, can he survive like this? Isn't this just mate? Okay. I do not know how we managed to get the mate in time, but yeah, oh, I missed mate in one, of course. Yeah, that was a mate in one. Very good. Very nicely pointed out, chess.com report. Yeah, well, he was completely lost. He had to try knight e7. And then rook c7, as I said, the only way to not get mated was queen d5. But I remembered myself that knight moved backwards. So we're going to be up a piece in this endgame. And yeah, despite few misses here and there, I really liked the way this game was played. It was a typical... okay, biggest mistake of the game genuinely was him giving up the center for absolutely no reason. Like, as I said, he's in a situation where, okay, he could just move the queen somewhere. Okay, like he did queen d7 in the game. Queen e7, it's kind of dodgy move because after e5 you don't have retreating square. So I would probably play queen e7, keeping d7 square for this knight and keeping c7 for the other. And after e5, knight d7, okay, sure, white is still slightly better thanks to the extra space. But you have a pawn in the center, which pawn in the center no longer allows knight e4 to d6 ideas. So very simple and avoidable mistake. You can see that even pretty strong players like 2100 just make these such simple mistakes and they're completely busted positionally afterwards. So knight e4, and yeah, it was a very nice position. Okay, I'm specifically proud of this h4 move, just preparing knight f4. And yeah, c5. He's kind of hanging on. I mean, I could have probably found some more precise tactics along the way, apparently, but I just played simple and I was looking to deliver a pawn break. So my plan was rook b1, b4, b5, and he should be busted. Huge difference between utility of knight on d6 and his knight on d5. That looks nice, right? It cannot be harassed by any pawns, but the knight doesn't really have any targets. Like, this pawn is very well protected. So he tried, to be honest, kind of the good thing to activate. It's just that, yeah, I mean, his position was really lost. Apparently, white has simple idea, and once you get rook on a6, then you play queen a4, and he gets brutally mated on the a file. So, yeah, in the game, I just won the c pawn, and shortly after, stumbled into a checkmate. So, with that being said, I think we can move on to the following game. All right. We are back with another white game facing 2100 opponent from Indonesia. All right. So he plays d5 on the first move. Already a sign that we're going to be allowed to play the Jobava London. So we're going to do just that. Knight c3. Bishop to f4. Remember that we need this pawn on d5 within the first 2 to 3 moves to play a Jobava. And it actually turns out to be something quite interesting, which is transposition into the Stonewall Dutch. So I'm gonna play bishop f4, and this is gonna be very interesting how it's gonna play out, because you can no longer guide yourself with the normal, let's say, Jobava London ideas. I guess I'm gonna show you, and you're gonna decide whether this is gonna be a normal idea or not. So development wise, we're gonna do the same: e3, bishop d3, knight f3. And I'm actually gonna ask you to pause the video in the near future to find the key move to get any active play. Because the main reason why this setup is actually so annoying to play against if you have no experience is that, let's say, our normal plans are not working. Like, normally we would love to play e4 break. That's never gonna be a thing, considering that black has two pawns fighting for that square. So no e4 business. Plus, going knight e5 is also not gonna be such a long-term strategy. Imagine you can try to trade bishops and then knight e5. I mean, black plays knight d7 and tries to exchange knights, and okay, maybe the position is still playable, but it's nothing really special. So instead of that, and in chess in general, when you don't know what to do, you want to look for a pawn break. So please feel free to pause the video and think about what kind of pawn break we should be playing for. Once you understand what is that about, the rest is going to be very simple, and the move is going to be very intuitive. So the pawn break is going to be with c4. We simply don't really have any other alternatives. Trying to play some h3, g4 would just be weakening for the king. If our king, let's say, was castled queenside, that would have been a viable idea, but not in this position. So the idea is to move the knight away so that we can play c4. And the whole business behind c4 is that we're going to try to play c5, b4, a4, b5, just expand on the queen side and try to win thanks to the extra space. Okay, plays queen c7. I think I can continue with the idea. And okay, you'll have to pause the video and think about what is the best way to recapture on f4. Should we take with a knight or with a pawn? Please feel free to pause the video again, because it may seem very tempting to take with a knight. But if you take with a knight, that is gonna still give our opponent some ideas to be annoying. Like, imagine a move like g5 could still be a thing. While if you take with a pawn, it's gonna be much more difficult for him to ever deliver any g5. Plus, you reinforce control over the e5 square. So, yeah, we take this way, and now we have a few moves after the pawn structure has just transformed. Because we have now two pawns fighting for e5 square, knight e5 becomes typical idea. We could still go for the other plan of just slowly expanding, but I feel like it's more difficult for my opponent to deal with knight e5, with the idea that after knight takes, pawn takes, we're gonna play f3. And then a big problem for this variation is that the knight on e4 is not going to have a good retreating square. Like, it will have to go via g5. And it's not going to be good. And this is a structure that you can get in many ways while playing the Jobava London. It's the so-called Pillsbury knight. Like, he gets knight e4, then supports with f5. But as long as you remember to not take the knight and just play around it, you go f3, it's going to really emphasize how weak the knight is. And notice that he already goes away by himself, because I was about to play f3, so I don't know. He just decided to play knight g5. I guess I'm gonna do f3 anyways. It's like a useful move, especially considering that he wants some business like that. Important though, do not play f4, because then he can play knight e4 and you're never gonna be able to kick him out with a pawn. And if you want to do like bishop trade, the problem is that it's gonna be fine after ideas like b6, bishop a6. and he will have no bad pieces. So we just play f3 now, let's say. Got rid of the knight, and simple plan, a4, b4, b5. Yeah, okay, so knight goes on f7, it's very bad. He lacks space, he has two bad pieces, he has no pawn break to play for. Okay, I don't think he can really sacrifice the knight with any good compensation. So I'm just gonna ignore and play b4. It could be an idea sometimes, let's say, to go knight e5 if he can get the central pawns rolling, but doesn't seem to be the case here. Doesn't have enough activity. And after b6, a4 is one move. b6 makes me feel like the pawn on c6 is a bit weak. So could prioritize ideas like queen c2, rook fc1. But also you want to watch out for a5, bishop a6 ideas, because if he can get that, it could perhaps be the only way black could get a reasonable possession. So I feel like it's a moment to play prophylactic, like we need to have a good response to a5. What could that be? It's not a rhetorical question, I'm trying to find one, so you have to bear with me. Could play rook c1, a5, cb, queen takes. Yeah, maybe rook c1 so that I can meet a5 with b5. And after bc, I want to have an idea to take with the rook. How about I do the queen instead? a5, b5. Yes, cb5, that's annoying. And if I take with the bishop, he gets to play bc and my pawns are getting disconnected. So I like rook c1 because I have b5. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna do rook c1. It's key move, a5, b5. Very important to keep advantage. And I was not afraid of this idea. I knew this is a thing, so he can try to block the situation, but now he's entering a really passive mode. So I can just use the pawn as a hook. Imagine he has to play a6, but then we will slowly pressure him on the queen side. This has potential to become very instructive, so I'm actually getting pretty excited, and also we have some time left on the clock, which is always, you know, something that we may take for granted. Not me, I will appreciate it. Okay, a6. So I just want to do queen c2 and then rook a1. Maybe start rook a1 with the idea that I'm threatening to take twice, so it's a bit more concrete. And I think he will just do bishop b7 and wait. Or bishop d7, same idea. I think I do queen c2. Keep an eye on that thing. Also, sometimes you have idea to switch. Play on both sides with rook g1 and g4. But I have a feeling we should be able to break through on the queen side. Maybe that would be a bit ambitious. I'm just gonna do like okay, I wanna watch out for that, but I don't think he can play it. I'm gonna do a pretty tricky move, king h1. We might be able to use both sides of the board. We have perfect setup for all the pieces. It's just a matter of, okay, do I want to go all in and double up on the a file before taking? And just try to say we play on that side for rook a7? Or do I want to combine with g4 break? So I have threat to infiltrate on the queen side and threat to mate. These are pretty much the main plans. So he goes g6, yeah. Okay. I can, yeah, I think I want to open up the file. This has to be good. We have just a perfect setup, like the queen can always infiltrate. Okay, and if he takes, okay, I need to think for a little bit. This is simple move, but pause the video. We may have some tactics. That's all I'm gonna say. Assuming he did. Can we make that move work? He's gonna try knight g5. Then I have f4. He's gonna do knight e4. Bishop takes, pawn takes. Rook g1. Yeah, so simple move, right? Simple move is just fine. But I really want to go for that. Problem is knight g5 is not simple. Knight g5 and I take. Okay, let's play it simple. Knight g5, maybe I just do h4, whatever. Just get rid of the knight. Okay, he's really about to get cooked, and I have a feeling he's missing what's about to happen. And now also rook f6 is an idea. Expecting really knight g5. Wow, knight a8! What a move! That I did not expect. Rook f6 he takes, and e5 could be annoying. Nah. So I want to do it... how do I want to do it? Man, this is... I have so many good ways of playing this. I have also knight f4. Okay, I'm gonna do simple move g5, idea to play rook f6. Maybe take with the pawn. He's so cooked right now. I might even just close the position. I don't think we really need to open up anymore. I can just play for rook f6 and break with h5 in the long run. So I have to take, right? Rook f8, and then I was banking on this rook f6 move. Yeah. So important that on rook f8, I'm not gonna trade, but I'm gonna infiltrate. And after the capture, yeah, my instinct is to take towards the center. And we're gonna have a protected pass pawn. And if he tries to get the blockade knight, the problem is g6 is gonna be soft. Okay. I have a feeling we might need to open up the a file though. I don't have to. I'm just gonna start with h4, flexible move. He cannot take. Could have also played knight f4 on previous move to play tempo move. But h4 is useful as well. The good thing is that as long as his queen does not infiltrate, he just has to play waiting game. And I can also bring my king. Oh, that's a very weakening move. That's a double attack. Yeah, I think he just collapsed with h6, but he would have also have gotten in a zugzwang pretty soon, even if he played precise. Okay, that's a good move though that I missed. That keeps it under control. I need to watch out for g5 and then some potentially queen h5 ideas. My instinct would be to just try to infiltrate, but he has g5. So I'm gonna play queen g2 or king g2. I'm gonna do king g2 just to kind of sidestep. If g5, simply take and then move the knight. Okay, I'm just gonna maneuver to g3, I guess, so that the knight protects my king. I'm not happy that he's getting some infiltration. Queen g4, I'll need to protect the pawn. I'm definitely allowing really unnecessary counterplay. If I take, he takes on d4, but I mean I get the passer. Okay, I'll just take so that I don't have to worry about a, b, and then yeah, I guess I'll try to get rid of his queen. Queen f2. Queen f2 with idea bishop e2. Yeah, I mean, I should still be good. It's just I allowed unnecessary counterplay. That's kind of what I hate about this. Wait. Take and then f7. He has king f8. If I play bishop e2, that allows bishop e4, so I need to be careful. Do I have queen a2? Takes queen a8, king h7, queen b7. I think that's working. I think we might be getting a checkmate on g7 if he's not careful. Okay. I don't know how he defends. He has no checks currently. He has bishop e4, but I mean, it's useless. My threat is to bring the queen and then I could be mating here. Important that the knight covers escaping square as well. Okay. If bishop e8, I cannot play queen a7. He has knight f7. Maybe just queen a8. I have queen a8, forcing the king, and then queen b7. And it's a double threat. Okay. I think we got him. 20 seconds left. Should have never really gotten the queen outside. I just didn't have enough time to calculate everything. But this pawn is just too strong. It's a protected passed pawn. It pretty much means all the endgames are gonna be a free win after the queen trade, because the pawn on g5 will be lost in the long run. Also, sometimes, by the way, in these endgames, imagine queens are being traded. He wants to watch out for bishop b5 idea as well. And then the pawn could promote. So it looks like a blocked positions, like how are you gonna make progress? But it's a really bad position for black. Bad as in, yeah, probably if you look at it with Stockfish, it's gonna say mate in 20 moves or something like that. It will see everything till the mate. Okay, opponent thinking is just queen is in pointless position. I have a threat of queen a8. He cannot even try to run with the king because I have queen a7 check. And then if you try to block with a knight, looks like you're blocking, but then remember the bishop is pinned. So I'll have queen takes on f7 with mate, exploiting the pin on the bishop. So let's see. I mean, he still has a few minutes to try to figure it out, but yeah, I can't see anything that's gonna stop mate. So I have a feeling we might mate. He goes queen, king h7, which, as I mentioned, should be bad. Knight f7. He missed the pin. I told you there is this nice pin to watch out for. I also told you that the knight is important covering h5 square because we have mate on g7. The king cannot run away. So, by the looks of it, he's getting mated on the next move. But I should have not spoiled the suspense. Hope you guys will still watch him in pain for the next 10 minutes. Or maybe I'm missing something. You never know. Wouldn't be the first time I messed up a winning position either. But a beautiful point. Knight f7 allows queen f7. And he has gotten his share of fun with the queen, but he would have loved to teleport the queen on f7 and prolong the game. Ultimately, it turned out to be very relevant that I opened up the file to use the queen for infiltration, because I was debating for a long time whether to just play a5, and having I played a5, keeping the pawn, my pawn on a5, his pawn on a6, this would have not been possible. I would have had no way to break through. But yeah, now we managed to really finish the game. Even though, yeah, we were kind of dominating all the time. It's just that he got some hopes for a perpetual. And he resigns. He doesn't even let me play the mate on the board. Okay, let's pop in a game review. See in how many weeks we should quit chess. Yeah, 79. Definitely should have quit chess a month ago, it seems. No, I'm very happy about everything until here. With a bit more time on the clock, maybe could spot a move like h5 or at least play something safe. Like, the problem is I was thinking to go queen g2 just to not allow any counterplay, but I got afraid of ba, which, you know, it's not really like a serious thing. Like, I can calculate my way into anything like that, but queen f7, I should probably, yeah, make up my mind on something. Even a5, just to block the position, and on g5, I can be in time with some queen g2 move, and he doesn't get any activation. Yeah, in hindsight, this is how I would have played it. So I see g5 is annoying. I can go a5, and the plan is to go queen g2, and he has no moves. Like, what is he gonna play? King f2? I mean, why not queen g2? Yeah, I would probably do queen g2, queen g4, bishop f7. And this is what I was mentioning a bit earlier. So it seems that Black manages to get everything under control, yeah, somehow. There is no breakthrough, but suddenly the breakthrough happens where you expect it the least. So we would have had bishop takes on b5. No matter how you take, your pieces are too cramped. So c6, king e8, and then, okay, not c7 because of king d7. But now knight takes on d5 is very nice. Okay, it seems that it's kind of crazy that these sacrifices are working in our favor, but it's always like that in positions with full control. Yeah, okay, I mean, honestly, I don't know. This may seem like a strange position to discuss, but yeah, I really had a lot of fun navigating through these breakthrough sacrifices. So I hope you guys at least find it somewhat instructive. And with that being said, we can move on to the following game. Unfortunately, there's not going to be a following game, but if you want to stay up to date with my upcoming course, alexbanzea.com, subscribe to the newsletter, and yeah, thanks everybody for tolerating me this much and making it this far into the video. On a serious note, none of this would have been possible without every single one of you watching. You guys are the best. Thank you.